Welcome to the Land Your Bet Sports Betting Show. We have 9 games here on Saturday and a fluid injury report, as we are wont to do here in the NBA. Still looking to see if a few guys are going to play in a couple of these games, including that Minnesota and Utah game. Now, John Collins is out. Utah continues to tank. So I'm still looking at a few things that I might be able to get back out. Check the comments of the video when you're watching it. I'm going to pin the bets that I do play. And when I add bets to the card, also going to throw them in the comments. Also throwing them on Twitter at JLBoogie or Land Your Bets, however you want to find me there on Twitter. Going to be adding to those plays here on Saturday as we keep moving into this early afternoon stage of these injury reports. So I've got 5 plays here for you guys. I want to get right into them and get in and get out so that we can go ahead and get these bets up for you. First one I'm looking at is in this Warriors and Lakers game. And I was looking really closely at this game and the Knicks and Kings game. Those were 2 that I felt like I could at least understand who was playing in this one. Steph is listed as questionable on official injury reports, but he's playing. LeBron listed as questionable. He's playing. He's had 2 full days of rest, 3 if you want to count this day as well, until they play at nighttime here on Saturday. So he's got plenty of rest. He pushes the pace. So does Steph Curry. So I'm going over 233, which I can still get for minus 105 on Caesars. Both teams are bottom 5 in terms of transition defense. They've been really bad at getting back all season long, and I'll continue to buy into that. The Dubs are going to be in transition a lot more with Steph on the floor than without. We've seen that. Same with Draymond, who's also questionable and also playing. Like, I would be very surprised if either of those guys don't play. So with them in the lineup, we're talking about the 2 dudes who push the pace the fastest for them. With Curry this season, a 99 pace, 119 points per game. Without him, a 98 pace, 108 points per game. And we have 6 games of him not playing. Decent enough sample size for me to go, yeah, I mean, the on-off stuff is the same even as the when he's playing versus not playing numbers, right? When he's on the court, much faster. When he's off it, much slower. So very simple there. This is a classic case of these 2 teams facing off where they've been doing this for a couple seasons now. They're both trying to fight for a spot in the actual playoffs, not in the play-in tournament. And they're both coming down to the wire with 1 seed only splitting them, right? We got the 8 and the 9 seed basically, or 9 and 10 seed. They keep fluctuating between there. And it's going to be another classic case of the Lakers are going to dominate them down low and the Dubs need to make threes. It's really that simple, right? And especially above the break, which is why I do like whomever is going to be shooting above the break for the Warriors to have a pretty nice game here. We'll see how that goes. The Warriors have a very bad free throw attempt defensive free throw attempt rate, meaning they're giving up a ton of free throws to their opponents. So that's what the Lakers do as well as anybody, top 3 in the league in terms of free throw attempt rate on both sides of the ball. But the Warriors don't really rely on the offense, the free throws on the offensive side of the ball. They do rely on second chance points, and they're going to need a couple of those as well. But I think they're going to get them. And I think this man's going to score. And I cannot believe we're looking at 24.5 points for Steph Curry as the prop we can get on MGM at minus 120. You can see it's minus 120, so I have 1 unit on that. I oftentimes like to go 1.2 units on a bet when I think it's a very solid bet, like I believe in this one very much so. And I usually will put 1.2 units on it to win a full unit back. But I took that extra 0.2 units and I put it on a ladder because I want to see if Steph goes off and goes for 30, because I think he's more likely to get 28 points than he is 25, right? Like, I think he's going to get over 25 pretty well. And so it's just a matter of, is this game going to stay at the pace that I think it is? And I've already got a full unit on the over for the total. So I'm obviously thinking that it is. He's gone over in 5 straight in the regular season versus the Lakers, and a ton of those games in the playoffs as well, when we're talking about 24.5 points. In those last 5 in the regular season, this is dating back to last season versus the Lakers, 35 minutes a game, 33.6 points per game, 24.5 field goal attempts, and more than half of those field goal attempts coming from deep, right? In one of those games, I think he shot 19 threes. So LA is allowing the 4th most threes made above the break on the last 10. And really on the season, they've been one of the worst teams in terms of limiting 3-pointers. That's what we've talked about this Lakers squad for like 3 seasons in a row now. Bottom 5 in terms of opponent 3-point attempts and 3-pointers made on the season in general. And this is a huge game for the playoffs. And I don't really think that this is a slow it down type of game for these 2 teams. If you go back here, one other thing I want to point out is when LeBron has played in this regular season matchup, because he missed 1 of those last 5 that they played in the regular season dating back to last season. And when he plays, we're talking about a 248 total. And I do want to add that there was a double overtime game earlier this year that ended at 289. So that's going to definitely impact things. But even if you take that 289 total out because of double OT, you're still left with 236 points per game average between these 2 teams in the last 4 games. Where 3 games rather, where LeBron has actually played in this series. He and Steph speed things up so much. Steph is the dude scoring in terms of above the break for them as well. And one other dude that I have to at least touch upon with a half a unit here is Andrew Wiggins. I don't know. I know that a lot of people don't like betting on him. I am 1-for-1 betting on Andrew Wiggins this season with an over because we keep getting low numbers for him because of the fact that, I mean, on the season, he's been a little bit, his minutes have fluctuated. His availability, more importantly, has fluctuated. And now he is available. And he's a couple weeks removed from being off of on an injury that kept him out for a few weeks. And so I do see his minutes ramping back up from about 25, 26 a game, closer to 30 now. And they trust him in this series versus the Lakers. He has, like I said here, I'm going half a unit to see if he keeps it up because he's gone over in 4 straight versus in the regular season versus this team. He's gone over in 8 of 10, including the playoffs last year for this number at 12.5. It was 11.5. People have bet it and moved it up to 12.5. And to be honest with you, these books are getting sharper, man. I will say that right now. Like, there's a lot of bets that I was looking at today where I was like, damn, these books feel kind of sharp with these player props. They're looking at a lot more of the stuff. They're clearly watching the Land Your Bet show is what's happening. So, but the Lakers do allow the 11th. If you want something that's more matchup based for right now, not just like, hey, he's done this a lot lately. First of all, saying he's done this a lot lately means something sometimes. It also means something when he's done this a lot versus this team. There's a clear matchup here where he's getting a few more shots per game. The Lakers are allowing the 11th most points per game to his scoring profile. If you're an athletic wing who can step in and make a mid-range jump shot, you're going to be pretty good against this team. And also, if you get out in transition, which Andrew Wiggins, Gary Payton Jr. the second, Gary Payton Jr., whatever, and then Jonathan Kuminga, even a little Moses Moody, and Brandon Pajemski. Those are the top 5 guys that are going to be running out into transition. If Wiggs is the one who gets these minutes, and he's playing with the starting lineup, that's another huge part of this, because when he plays in the second unit with Chris Paul, where he doesn't start, that's where you start to see a few of those transition points go down because Chris Paul is the guy that slows everything down. But with him in the starting lineup, getting starter minutes, he's going to be playing with dudes like Draymond and like Kuminga and Curry, who all want to push the pace of this thing. And I think he'll be one of the beneficiaries of that as he continues to get out in transition as well. 4th best bet here on the day for Saturday. Tyrese Haliburton under 31.5 points and assists. Let me interrupt myself to say, if you would subscribe to that page, if you like what you're getting, also have live streams every single day on the weekdays. Right now, those are going at 5:30 p.m. Eastern, about an hour and a half before tip of the first games, so that you can go ahead and get some of these live bets in with us. We're having a really good time talking about this stuff on the live stream as well, so I want to plug that for you guys. But let me go under 31.5 PA, points and assists for Tyrese Haliburton here. We're talking about Brooklyn. I've tried to do this a couple times with the Brooklyn Nets where they are very good at limiting assists to point guards. And this is what I mean by the books being sharp, by the way. Not only do they have a good line for this one, I think it's a little high, so I like the under, but they have a great line for for Dennis Schroeder, the opposing point guard on the Nets. For him to go 6.5 assists, go under that is minus like 145. They are not giving you any odds for him to go under 7 assists, which is weird, but we'll talk about that another time. It's just they're getting sharper, I'm telling you. For Brooklyn, in terms of how they're playing against point guards, really well, right? They're top 10 versus point guards in terms of limiting the pick and roll ball handler, which is always Tyrese Haliburton. That's the play that they run the most on offense, is put Tyrese Haliburton in the pick and roll as the ball handler. And they're not only top 10 in terms of limiting points per game to the ball handler in this situation, they're also number 1 at limiting the roll man in the pick and roll on the season, which means that they're not going to be giving up too many assists to Haliburton. It's a big reason why they limit assists in general, because so many teams play pick and roll, and they are really good playing really good drop defense against the pick and roll guy, which in this case is either going to be someone like Miles Turner or Obi Toppin, right? And Nick Claxton has been really, really good at being that guy that limits those dudes when they come off of that pick and roll, right? And so that's a big reason. He's been a little bit worse this season, Nick Claxton, right at the rim, but he's been very good at limiting this, as you can see, top number 1 in the league. And if you look at the way that Haliburton scores off the pick and roll and from above the break 3, they're top 10 in terms of limiting his shot and scoring profile. They limit the 3rd fewest threes per game on the season. And over their last 10 on the season, they're top 10 3-point defense, and the 2nd fewest assists per game to Haliburton's profile, which is once again that pick and roll ball handler, which is helpful here because we don't have direct numbers on the traditional stats for how many assists that Haliburton gets off of the pick and roll as the ball handler, but we do know that to his playmaking profile, which is a guy coming off of that pick and roll, this Brooklyn team is really good at limiting that. Last bet I have for you. We got the Knickerbockers at the Kings, and this thing has dropped a lot in the total, but I'm going over it now that we get it at 217.5, minus 105 on Caesar. I think you can even find some 217s as well. So I'm taking over in this game because of a couple of trends that I've seen in the way that these two teams play and when they play each other. First, and most importantly, when these two teams have played at SAC, they've averaged 31 more points per game than the last two that they played at New York. At Sac, we're talking about a 245 total, 242.5 rather total in these last two games last year where they played at Sac. When you talk about them playing at New York, 211.5 total. And one of those games at Sac where they went cleanly over didn't have Jalen Brunson in it, by the way. It did have Julius Randle, but Jalen Brunson was not in there. And they score, without question, right? The Knicks are way better on offense with JB than without him. They score 13 more points per game with him in there. They play at a pace that is 4 possessions faster. They played a 91.2 pace without Jalen Brunson in about 6 games this season. In the whatever it is, 56 games that they played with him, we're talking about 105.5 pace, or 105. That's not the Knicks. 95.5 pace for the Knicks, which is still slow, but they play way faster when he's in there. They can score way more when he's in there, right? And part of that is that he's really crucial to their threes and above the break threes and setting up other dudes for three, both in the corner and on the wing, right? He still kind of plays that Luka style ball where it's like your world at the top of the key, Jalen Brunson. And then once you get there and you get into the lane a little bit, if you get by your guy, you have the opportunity to either throw to one of the corners or to the opposite wing where probably Dante DiVincenzo is standing, right? Or Josh Hart. So what that means is the threes are going to be there against a team that is not very good at defending the three in this Sacramento team. They allow the second highest three-point percentage on the season. They're bottom 10 in terms of the amount of threes that are made against them. And the Knicks are going to rely on those threes. Like I said, they have the 9th highest points percentage of their points that they score from three, and the 10th highest percentage of their points are attempts that they even shoot on the season in every game are from three, right? There's very few teams that are shooting more threes than the Knicks a game in terms of how many percentage of their points that they're shooting it from. But the Kings also, they average 9 more points per game total to these totals that they play in when they're at home versus on the road. We've seen that all season for them. We've seen it over the course of the last 15 games, even more recent stats. So it's something we're going to continue to target, and is a solid explanation for why when these two teams play at Sac, this thing goes over, and when they don't, it goes under, right? So that's all the time I have for you. I want to get out of here so I can get this up for you guys. We are up 22.8 units on the season now, 30.2 from the Playa Props, and really happy if you look at the sides and totals. We were down about 10, 11 units on the sides and totals on the season as much as a month and 6 weeks ago or so. And now we get back up to minus 1.3, still getting looking to climb back over that. But hopefully these Player Props as well will continue to go strong for us so that we can get this up to 40 units on the Player Props here before March is over. This is how we did yesterday. If I had stayed away from Kelly O and Jalen Duren there, which were late ads on the live stream, which don't get me started about Kelly Olynyk. A lot of us were talking about that on Twitter. He had 5 rebounds in the fourth quarter, 4 rebounds in 3 minutes because of 2 tip-ins that he was just playing taps at the rim. Very frustrating. Only reason that we didn't do better than 0.6 units, but we'll always take plus 0.6 units on a night. We'll always take plus units on a night. That's how we play this thing. So appreciate y'all following along. That is all the time I have for you today. I am going to be on the Kyle Kerms live stream here in just a minute. Honestly, it's only about 45 minutes away. So check that out. Also going to have plenty of college hoop stuff here with Oaks, but definitely make sure you're checking out the channel for the shorts that he's putting up. And until I see you next, happy betting.